Hello everybody, it is August the 17th and I'm filming this video at about 8 o'clock in the morning. So this is the information I know at this time, but I'm sure there's going to be development throughout the day. So again, anything that happens today, I'll do a video about tomorrow morning. So I have the papers here. I've got the Daily Mail. It's not my favourite, but it's a pretty amazing headline saying that will all GCSE results be delayed later this week? There's talk about maybe pushing them back by a couple of weeks. I've got the Telegraph as well, talking a bit more about Williamson and Ofqual. So I thought what I'd do is just maybe explain a little bit about where we are and how we've got to this situation. Now, to be honest, there is no easy way forward with exams being cancelled, okay? So whatever happens is like the least worst scenario. So what happened is obviously you've been doing work for several years and I think, a lot of this is a really sensible way of doing things. I mean, I don't know what the alternative would be. First of all, you're going to hear a lot about centre assessed grades. Okay, now this is what your teachers and also your school think that you should get as a grade. Now, it's not just necessarily your teacher in isolation just looking at your class. I mean, your teachers know you, they know how you've done in mock exams, in maybe unit tests, in classwork, and also, quite frankly, what you're capable of. Because I know very well that I've taught many students who, maybe a bit lazy, didn't try that hard, but I knew how they would then work in the lead up to the exams. And basically all of this data and evidence and just knowledge of the students has been used by your teachers to put in the grade that they think you should get. And then that's often been looked at maybe within your department. So I know when I was the head of science, we look at all of the data from all of the classes, we talk about it, and we do this all the time. This is how we make the decisions about which set you go into, about should you be doing maybe the double combined science or maybe the separate triple science. So these things are things that your teachers routinely do. Now, those marks will have been put into some kind of massive spreadsheet, some mega thing at your school, and then they've looked at it to check that it, looks valid. And, there's a lot of evidence there, and, your teachers have your best interests at heart, and they put down the grade that they genuinely think you could have got in that exam if everything went well on the day. Now, because every school is doing that independently, what happens all the time, and this might be bits of coursework or it might be real exams, is there's some kind of standardisation across all the results around the country. And this happens every year, and that's kind of where Ofqual come in. So your grades got sent off, there's some kind of massive, mega spreadsheet, and this is where the algorithm comes in. Now, again, I think it's a fair thing to do to, rather than just take teachers' word for it, to maybe look at the results across the whole country and try and make sure that they're balanced and maybe reflect previous years. The problem is that the algorithm, for whatever reason, it's definitely penalising some people more than others. And what it's trying to do is two things. First of all, it's trying to make sure that maybe the same amount of grades are given this year as in previous years. So the amount of grade 9s is going to be the same as last year, or the amount of A stars is going to be the same as in previous years. The problem is, though, that it doesn't work very well where you've got quite a small number of students in that class. And this is especially applicable to maybe sixth form colleges and other types of school where the results that they've got don't reflect maybe how they've done previously. I had a message from a teacher and she said, normally they get about 60% A's and B's, and this year it's gone down to 26% of their students have had an A and B. And actually they looked at their marks, which were in line with what they did previously, and a lot of their students were downgraded by 1, 2 or even 3 marks. And there's so many stories I've heard of people who've been doing really well in mock exams. They had some good centre assessed grades, but the algorithm has affected them really unfairly. And there's lots and lots of individuals out there who've been really badly affected by this. And that's just so far with the A-level results. So there's something in the algorithm that is definitely penalising some individuals more than others. And the reason they did that is to try and make sure that effectively the results from that school this year are relatively similar to the results that school would have had previously. That was the idea, but I don't think it's working. So where are we now? Basically, it's all a bit of a mess with the A-levels. And you've got Ofqual, who, they're the ones who kind of do this kind of moderation. They are a government kind of body, I suppose. They're the kind of regulators of the exams. And actually, this has got nothing to do with the exam board. So it is not AQA's fault. It is not Edexcel, OCR. It is not the fault of the exam board, because they're not actually setting you these exams. They're kind of a bit out of it at the moment, because your grades will have gone kind of past the exam boards up to Ofqual who've done this moderation. Now, that's all fine. And there was going to be an appeals process. But then we've got this guy, Gavin Williamson. So he's kind of at the top of all of this. He's in the government. I can't remember, is he the Education Secretary? Yeah, so he's the Education Secretary, and he could have made this announcement without necessarily talking to Ofqual and schools and so on. And he basically talked about this triple lock, where a student would get the highest of either their grade that they've just been given, or the autumn exam series if they want to do this exam in the autumn, or they maybe could use their school mock result. Now, this threw up a load of other issues, because quite frankly, every school does a mock exam in a very, very different way. Now, I know when I've done it, we've maybe had year 11s who've done a mock exam, and this is basically their first chance to maybe sit in the exam hall under exam conditions. And, everything is done really strictly. And then what we do is, as teachers, we mark the exam, and then maybe we look at a few other papers, but there's not a huge amount of moderation. Sometimes we've used a past exam paper that has been produced by the exam board, but sometimes these are available online, or you can find chat rooms where there's answers to different things. So we don't know it's definitely a fair test for everybody, because some people might have seen some of that exam before. It also doesn't assess the whole curriculum, and often these are maybe done in November, when actually people are really far away from where they want to be at the end. And depending on the kind of teacher and depending on the class, sometimes we mark them quite leniently. Maybe there's a lower set who maybe don't have much confidence. They find that they feel they're failing. So we might maybe mark that exam quite leniently, give them a good grade for those individual students to say, actually, no, you can do this. So maybe we, as teachers, artificially inflate their grade. There's also going to be people that we mark very harshly for, to say to the kids, buck your ideas up. You can't just sort of do a week's revision and then get the A or the grade 9 that you're expecting. So sometimes we mark really harshly, maybe give people a lower grade than they're expecting, and that makes them work harder because they realise how much work they've got to do. So the problem with mock exams is that every school does them in a different way. And just because you got given a grade A in that mock exam, that doesn't mean you're definitely going to get an A at the end of the course. So the problem is about saying to students, yeah, that's fine, you can use your mock exam result. Well, mock exam results aren't really valid. They're not a fair test. And as scientists, people who watch my videos, because I'm doing physics stuff, you'll realise about, what is fair, repeatable, reproducible, okay? And this is nothing like that. This is very much every school does it in their own way. And that's absolutely fine, because these mock exams, they were never designed to finalise your final grade for A-levels or GCSE. So I think last week Ofqual put about some guidance about what the appeal process might be, and how that maybe your school can use your mock result to kind of go towards that. And then over the weekend that got taken down. And I think the reason is that Ofqual are in an impossible situation. They had their plans, and then at the last minute the government are maybe changing things without thinking about what might happen. So at the moment I'm still waiting for more guidance from Ofqual about the appeal process, definitely for A-levels, and what that might be. I suppose the other thing is about, obviously that's A-levels, they came out last week. Later this week on Thursday it's GCSE results. And, this is going to be massive, because I think there's I think about 500,000 people are going to be getting their results. I think they talk about 4.6 million results being released, but that's because each person has maybe 9 subjects. So I think about 500,000 of you are going to get results. Now, at the moment, they're thinking, well, if we go down the same process as we did for A-levels, where we're using this algorithm to actually work out what result you should get based on your centre assessed grade by your teacher, and then how that's been adjusted by Ofqual to maybe take into account your school's previous performance, this is going to cause uproar. So one thing that might happen is that whatever grades have already been calculated, they just get given out on Thursday. There's calls for your teacher or the centre assessed grades to be given instead. This will lead onto massive grade inflation over previous years. And also, if you're in year 10 or year 12 at the moment, it might seem a bit unfair that the year above you just get given the grade that maybe is higher than they would have got. But actually, that's what's going to be happening in Northern Ireland. So I've seen this morning on the BBC News that it said in Northern Ireland, the teacher grades are going to be given to students there. So if you're a CS student, that's probably a bit of good news for you. In the UK, they may be talking about delaying it, which would be, I guess, in a way good because they can work out the right kind of grade to give you before they give it to you. But then if they delay it by 2 weeks, that's when school is beginning. How do you know which sixth form college you're going to go to or what A-levels you're going to be doing if you don't know the grade you've been given until the day? So the whole situation is an absolute mess at the moment. But whatever happens, you're not alone. That's important to know. Another thing is that, there's lots of headlines out there, and a lot of these things, they haven't been written by teachers, okay? Your teachers have got your best interests at heart, and my advice for you and your parents and grandparents and carers and people like that is have a look at your school's website. There will be people at your school, maybe the exams officer, maybe the sixth form team, maybe your normal teachers, or maybe the heads of department or deputy head or even the head teacher. These people, they're fighting your cause because they want you to get the grades that you need to get onto that next step in your education. So I don't really have any advice for you because I don't know what's happening. I would just say the bits of advice you need to look at are on the Ofqual website. They've got the guidance as it is, and they've got the latest information about appeals. I'll put some links up beneath this video. And again, I'll be doing another video tomorrow morning. Now, the final thing is that some of you are going to get maybe a grade which you're disappointed in, and that often happens every year in exams. You might get a grade that you're not happy about, and actually it's not necessarily the fault of the system. It might just be that that's due to the grade that your teachers had to put in based on the evidence you've got. If you're thinking about doing an exam in the autumn, it's A-levels in October, it is GCSEs in November. Don't forget that you can teach a lot of stuff to yourself. I've got loads of stuff for physics. I've got GCSE physics online. I've got A-level physics online. I've got hundreds of videos there, in addition to, I think, 800 videos now on YouTube. And I will be doing what I can to support you in the run-up to the exams, if that's live streams or whatever it might be. So, let's see what happens. I will see all of you again tomorrow, and I'll also answer your questions. If you have questions, what I'll do is I'll look at the comments later tonight. I'll try and prepare some answers, and I will answer your questions in the video tomorrow. So until then, stay safe and I guess try not to worry too much. Oh yeah, and subscribe to me at Physics Online. Thank you.